Okay, we're going to be looking at lesson 3.6, compound inequalities, and we're going to be seeing things like with a word and a word or. So I want to take you back a little bit. Let's think about just a compound sentence and what that means. So it's a sentence that's connected by the word and or. Okay, so an example, I'm going to the movies and to dinner. So that word and is implying that both the movies and the dinner are going to happen. All right. If I change it and stick the word or in there, I am going to the movies or I am going to dinner, then the or is implying that only one or the other is going to happen. Okay. And it's going to be the same thing in math. If I have an and statement, I'm looking at both things being true, both things happening. If I have an or statement, I'm looking for only one part to happen. Okay. So a compound inequality in math is two or more inequalities that are connected by the words and or. For the word and, this must be true for both inequalities. So when I'm looking for solutions, we're going to be looking at what is true for both. And we're going to do a lot of shading. And when we look at the shading, we're going to be looking at where do they overlap. Okay. Now in this video, we are primarily only going to work on and to start with. And then later on, we'll either look at another video or in class talk about the or. So this video will only complete the and part of the notes. Okay, so then the word or is true for at least one. Okay, so like I said, movies or dinner. One of those is true. And when we look at the graphs, we're going to be looking at what's been shaded. So what has shading, and if it has shading, it's an answer. Okay, all right, let's look down here at our first example, okay, and we have what's called and statements. If you see the word inclusive, that is just a fancy way of saying and. So I can either say inclusive or and we're talking about the same thing. All right, so it says write a compound inequality. So that means I'm going to have at least two inequalities that represent the phrase and then graph. Okay, all real numbers. So in place of all real numbers, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, but in place of all real numbers, we're just going to put a variable, okay, so like x. So in place of all real numbers, we're going to put x that are greater than 2, greater than -2, okay? And then you're going to see this word and pop up, okay? So the word and pops up, okay? When you see the word and, you're going to kind of write the word and in between, okay? And then you're going to come back and you have to repeat this first part, okay? So on the ands and ors, we're always going to repeat the first part. X is less than 6. So in other words, they're giving you two different endings, and these are your two separate endings, okay? So now if I graph this, let's go ahead and make a number line. Now on our number lines, I'm not looking for anything fancy. I'm simply looking for a -2 and maybe sticking like a 0, a 6, kind of space it out, okay? All right, so on this and statement here, I'm going to draw a line up above. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm going to have x is greater than 2, -2, shaded this way, and x is less than 6, shaded this way. Okay, so now everything I just showed you right here is work. Okay, I'm looking to see on an and statement, where do they overlap? So where are these particular numbers overlapping? Well, if I look, they're overlapping everything right through here. That's where they overlap, okay? So now I'm going to transfer that down to my graph. I'm going to put an open circle on -2 and an open circle on 6, and I'm going to shade in between. So this right here is my final answer. This is what I want to see on a final grid on a test or a quiz right here, okay? Everything up here was just work. All right, so now one of the things we're going to start talking about is how do we write this final answer? On an and, we kind of scrunch it together, and it's kind of weird. All right, we're going to simply go based off of what we have on our number line. We have -2 and 6. So I'm going to have -2 and 6, and I'm going to put the variable in between. So we're scrunching it together. All right, now the 6 one, it's pretty easy. I have less than, so I'm going to go ahead and put a less than. All right, now I need you to kind of think about this guy right here. If you notice, it's the same thing, just wrote backwards. So in reality, this is saying x is less than negative 2. Oh, shoot. Let's erase that. Sorry, guys. Let's try that again. It's going to say negative 2 is less than x, okay? So in other words, my symbol in here is always going to be a less than, okay? Now, just kind of a word of warning here, you should always have a less than right here. If you're going from the least number to the greatest number, you're going to have lessons in there. They should always be pointing the same direction, okay? All right, so let's try it again. All right, so now this one, it's still an and, okay? We have a couple of clues here that tell us and. One, we've got the word and right here. But also the word between is going to tell us that it's an and statement, okay? So we're going to start with the first part here. Oops. Okay, we're going to start with the first part. All real number, so x, that are between negative 4 and 8. And in fact, I'm going to erase this right now. And what I'm going to do is we're going to put this between negative 4 and 8. We're going to put the variable in the middle, okay? And like I just said, we're going to have less thans in there, okay? Now, when you see the word between, you need to also be putting an equal sign there, okay? So now let's go ahead and let's look at our graph. So we know at negative 4 and 8, okay? We know that we've got closed circles on both, and it is between, so I'm going to shade everything between there, okay? And so again, we're looking at negative 4, small number, big number, less thans in the middle, okay? And then variables in the very middle. Now, if I ask you to do this in set builder notation, I would ask you just to put a line X out front of all that, okay? So that's what set builder would look like if the directions that call for it. All right, let's go over to the next page here. Okay, so we're going to look at example 2. Okay, oh, and the directions say solve each compound inequality, graph, then write your final solution in set builder. Okay, all right, so we've got an and statement, and that's going to be very important. Okay, so and statement means where are they overlapping? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add the 3 over to the other side on the first one. So y is greater than or equal to negative 8. Same thing here, add 3 over. So I get y is less than or equal to negative 5. All right, so now I'm going to do a number line here because part of what we do is graph. And I've got negative 8, 7, 6, 5, negative 5. Okay, so doing my first one here, I have a closed circle on negative 8. And we're heading off to the right. I have a closed circle on negative 5. Heading to the left. So now again, the question is, where do they overlap? They are overlapping everywhere here in the middle. So that's what my graph is going to look like. I'm going to put a closed circle on negative 8, a closed circle on negative 5, and everything in between gets graphed. Okay? So now when we write our final answer, put negative 8, negative 5, just copy it straight down from your number line. Put your variable in the middle, so we have a y in this case, okay? And like I said, they're always going to be pretty much less than or equal to here in the middle, okay? Now, if you want to go back here and see y is less than or equal to negative 5, here's y is less than or equal to negative 5. Up here on this guy, keep in mind, if I rewrite them backwards, it's 8 less than or equal to y, and that's what we've got right here, 8 less than or equal to y. Okay, so keep in mind, on an and, this is what it should look like. You're going to, what we say, scrunch it together, push it all together. Okay, and then again, if it asks for set builder, which this does, put line Y and a set bracket. Okay, let's go to example B. All right, so when we see something like this, okay, remember earlier I said that it shares the middle. Okay, so the middle gets shared. Okay, so you actually have two inequalities here. You have 6, can I get my pen? 6 less than or equal to r plus 7 and r plus 7 less than 10. So you still have two inequalities to solve. It's just in this case, they scrunched it together and we're going to break it apart. So we are going to write down this inequality. Okay, and then you're going to write down this inequality. Again, the middle gets shared. okay? All right, so now let's solve. So I subtract 7 over to the other side, and we end up with -1 is less than or equal to r. I subtract 7 on the right-hand side here and get r is less than 3, okay? So now I'm looking at my graph. I've got -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and graph this first guy right here. Now keep in mind, technically we would need to rewrite it, right? Variable out front before we graph. So you would have a closed circle on -1 headed to the right. And then on the 3, I'm going to have an open circle headed to the left. So again, where are they overlapping? They're overlapping everywhere in the middle, okay? So now I'm just going to copy that down onto my grid. Closed circle, open circle, everything in between. Okay, now write your final answer. Put -1 and 3 down. Put r in the middle. And then, like I said, less than's, and then just double check. This guy, the 1, has an equal sign on it, so put an equal sign on it. Again, if it asks for set builder, line r, set bracket. Okay. All right, C. Okay, so on C, they've already got it separated for us. Okay, we're still looking at ands, so we're going to subtract 3 from both parts. So I have 1/2 x is less than or equal to 6. And now I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So those cancel. So x is less than or equal to 12. And then on this second part here, yay, it's already done. We don't have to solve. So all I need to do now is get my number line going. So I'm at 12 here, 21 out here. Okay, so the 12, closed circle, heading out this way. 21, closed, heading this way. So now when I look at this, we have a problem because I'm supposed to have some sort of overlapping somewhere, and these clearly are not overlapping. They're shooting out from each other. So if nothing overlaps, you're going to have a no solution. There are no answers. I'm looking for overlapping, nothing overlapped, and that's going to be your answer. All right, let's go to D. Okay, again, we have a shared problem here, so we're going to share the middle, right? Share the middle. Okay, so I'm going to have 20 less than -2x plus 4 and -2x plus 4 greater than 16. Okay, so let's start solving. So we're going to subtract 4 off. So I'm going to get 16 less than -2x. I'm going to divide by -2. Now, when I divide by a negative, remember that inequality sign has to flip. Same rules as earlier in the chapter. All right, so on this one, we're going to subtract 4 again. So I get -2x is greater than 12, and I divide by -2. So x is less than -6. Again, notice how my inequality sign flipped. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, kind of zoom in here, and we're going to start your graph. So I've got -8, -7, -6. Okay, and on the first guy here, make sure that you put the variable out front before you graph. So I have an open circle heading out this way. And on the 6, -6, I have an open circle heading this way. So remember, we're looking for where does it overlap. So in this case, it's overlapping right here. So we will not include -6 in our answer because there's no overlapping with it, okay? It overlaps everything out here. So the only answer we're going to have is this x is less than -8 part, okay? So I'm going to have x less than -8 and then put it in set brackets. Okay, so again, always look for where does it overlap. All right, example 3. Write a compound inequality, solve, this includes graphing, and then write your final solution in set builder notation, okay? So just like at the beginning of the lesson, keep in mind, we are going to repeat the first part, okay? So a number plus 1, repeat, okay? So a number plus 1, so x plus 1, greater than -5, okay? Now we hit that word and, so and, repeat, x plus 1 less than 3. All right, so again, you have 2 different endings to the problem. Okay, All right, so let's go ahead and solve. So I'm going to add 1 over to the other side on the first one. So x is greater than -4. I'm going to, oh, I should have subtracted 1, shouldn't I? Okay, let's try that one more time. So we are going to subtract 1 and get -6. Subtract 1 on the second one and get x is less than 2. Okay, so we're going to graph -6, 2. Okay, so if I look here, we're going to have an open circle on -6 shaded to the right. We're going to have an open circle on -2 shaded to the right. So where are they overlapping? Everywhere in the middle is where they overlap. So I'm going to have sorry guys. So I'm going to have -6 and 2, right? Variable in the middle. And remember, put your less thans, and then do you have any equal signs? Nope. Line X, set brackets. Okay, go to the next page. All right. On example 4 here, this is going to be our last example for the video, okay? It says write a compound inequality for the graph. Now, you've been doing this the whole time. So just bring down your numbers. -3, 3, put a variable in the middle. And then look, lessons, always lessons, right? And then in this case right here, I have a closed circle. So I need an equal sign. It doesn't say anything about set builder, so we don't have to worry about the line X or any of that. And that's going to be your final answer. Okay, that we're going to stop there for our notes. So that concludes the and notes.